Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope everybody's doing fantastic out there, and appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel if you guys could. If not, appreciate you guys stopping by. So, a little bit of NBA news today, which I found to be interesting from a Heat perspective, though it really had nothing to do with the Miami Heat. It was just a nice little story, and that was that Steph Curry, very wealthy, is going to be making even more money playing basketball for the Golden State Warriors, as he got a 1-year, $62 million extension to extend his contract with the Warriors through the 26-27 season, and deserved. I would say he deserves it. It was $62.6 million is this next year. So it adds on and it goes through the 26-27 season. Now, if you guys are just tuning in here and you're just like, cool, Tobin, why are you bringing this to our attention? Well, there's actually two angles I want to go with this. The first, this is fascinating to me because it is very close, not identical, but it's very close to the extension exactly that Jimmy Butler wanted, which he essentially wanted on his deal that he already had with the Miami Heat. He wanted basically a sweetener of 1-year extension at about $60 million. I think it was a little bit less. I think it was in the realm of like $59 million or something like that. So, Steph's still making like an extra $4 million here. He makes more than Jimmy Butler. I think, being a hometown guy accolades, that's where his contract is at. But it essentially was for Jimmy Butler when this whole contract standoff came up with the Miami Heat. It was for Jimmy Butler to get his option year next year lopped off, made a guarantee with an extra year, which is where Steph Curry's contract currently goes, and he is going to make 55.8 this year, 59.6 in the 25-26 season, and now has the extension year in the 26-27 season, which is for about $62.6 million. A lot of money. And I've said this before. The Warriors are probably the lone franchise over the last years that, as a Heat fan, you truly have to look at them and be a little jealous of, just because, they had their superstar acquisition. They had their guy in Steph, right? They have their core with him, Draymond, Klay Thompson. They win their first championship with LeBron James. But then they against LeBron James. Then they have this insane acquisition of Kevin Durant, which we were just talking about earlier in the week because Hassan Whiteside had brought up the meeting, and they win 2 more. But then, the Kevin Durant thing kind of goes away. Everybody's like, oh, the Warriors, they broke everything, and super jealous. They get back to the finals and they get it over the finish line, right? They get Wiggins and they have these young guys and Jordan Poole, and they beat the Celtics. Year where Jimmy Butler, of course, comes up a shot short. Would have actually loved to seen that matchup. That probably would have been, one of the more intriguing finals if the Miami Heat would have been able to make it against that Warriors team. But Steph gets his shut the hell up ring for everybody. He keeps doing it. Performances in the gold medal games, tremendous. Now he gets his dollars. And this is kind of another reminder to that Warriors thing, like kind of always eking out the Heat over like these, this back half of the decade. Like Steve Kerr gets to be the coach of Team USA, Spo gets to be the assistant. They get over the hump and get that ring, even though, the Heat got to 2 finals, you got to 1 after the KD thing. They still get the over the top championship, and now here we are with their aging star. And he gets his little sweetener year. Now, I understand it is not complete apples to apples. For example, Steph Curry is more of their D Wade. Jimmy Butler is not that for the Miami Heat, though he has brought everything to the table in these postseason runs when he's been available. And you could very much say, like, hey, the reinforcement Steph Curry has had with his squad, I mean, Jimmy Butler's roster is pale in comparison. I mean, in the finals, when Gogi goes down and Bam's hurt, he's got Kelly Olynyk next to him. In another one, you got Kyle Lowry giving you 3 shots a game and Caleb Martin kind of turning back into a pumpkin. So it's not all been on Jimmy that he hasn't been able to get over the top. It's actually very little of it has. Though his Denver Nuggets finals was a bit of a stinker. But I still think Jimmy has meant a lot to the revitalization of the Miami Heat, and this is why I was for giving him that extra year. Just a little show of, hey, we know you've done a lot for this franchise. You've given a nod, and we just want to do right by you. And I understand there's a vast difference between a guy being the icon of your franchise, 4 rings, to being the, face of your franchise for the last 5 years, no rings, 2 finals appearances. This is Pat Riley, winning or misery. You got to give it over to the finish line. But all in all, Steph Curry, who's also a little bit older than Jimmy Butler, he's 36. He'll be 37 before the playoffs. So his final year of this deal would have been 38, turning 39. Jimmy would have been, I think, turning 37 that season. And so that's another thing that's not quite, apples to apples. Steph is a little bit older than Jimmy Butler, and they still gave him the money, which of course they do. No question you do it. It's just a matter of the Heat kind of bucking at it immediately, and then reportedly, although we don't have Jimmy Butler on record about this because he hasn't done any serious interviews about his basketball career, it's been reported that, nope, just opting out. I'm going to treat this as a contract year, even though should something catastrophic happen, he does have that safety net next year of $52.4 million player option. So we'll see if that actually does come to fruition. But all he wanted was that extra year, which is why I was kind of for it in the first place. Because let's just say it like this. If the Heat are queasy about giving Jimmy Butler an extra year and Jimmy Butler goes out, let's say he has an amazing year, right? This reverse psychology that Riley put on him works, and he balls out, kills it, leads the Heat to a championship, or gets them back to the finals, or gets them to the Eastern Conference Finals. And 2 catastrophic things can happen, or 2 things can happen. You can either have the catastrophic situation of him leaving the Miami Heat, or you could have a situation where he want to get a 4-year extension at the end of this year, which is going to lead into nearly his damn 40s. And is going to be for a lot more money. So in the end, I feel like if I'm betting on Jimmy Butler and how I think he's going to come into this year, house on fire, this is going to now turn into almost an even more difficult negotiation. So, when I saw that news about Steph Curry, I was like, damn, that's exactly what Jimmy Butler wanted. It's exactly the thing that Jimmy Butler wanted. And look, I know the Warriors aren't perfect with this stuff. They did just go cheap skis on Klay Thompson. His feelings got hurt all of last year, and he's gone. They're not infallible in this. Klay probably deserved to get to ride off into the sunset and do what he wanted to do to ride off into the sunset, because he has been Steph Curry's wingman. He has been the Warriors are a fascinating thing. There's no team like them as far as, like, when you see all the teams that come to town. Yeah, we get a lot of New York Knicks fans who come to see the Knicks. They're very obnoxious. We get a lot of the Boston fans, even worse. When Giannis comes to town, there's plenty of, kids wearing Giannis jerseys because their parents failed them and didn't get them Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero jerseys and Jimmy Butler jerseys. But I'm not here to talk about bad bandwagon parents. The Warriors fan base is not only it's not only not obnoxious, they treat that team and they treat Steph Curry and they treated Klay Thompson and Drake. They treat them like rock stars, and then the kind of following they have when they leave the building is different. So, this is the most obvious thing in the world. Now, aside from the fact that I think Jimmy Butler should have gotten his money and that angle of this, something else did happen that kind of intrigued me from a from a whaling standpoint. Because, look, who knows what the Warriors are going to be this year, right? Like, they are now without Klay Thompson. You make some additions. They kind of snooped around the Larry Markkinen thing, right? They have this Pajemski, who they think is the world of. Andrew Wiggins has not been the guy that he was since they went to the finals. That they have Kuminga, who is gunning for big things in his career, but it could go awry. It's a stacked Western Conference. It could go a little bit sideways. And Steph Curry is represented by Octagon Sports. So the person who broke this story today on the landscape was Jeff Austin from Octagon Sports. They do not represent the UFC. And that's the person who reported this to Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, interestingly enough, Bam Adebayo's agent had posted this on his Instagram page, and I was like, that's a little interesting, because his name is Alex Sataris, and I follow him because he's Bam's agent, but also I always remember him representing Bam and Giannis. And so if you go to the link on his basketball page, I don't actually even see Giannis on the Octagon basketball page anymore, but if you go to Alex Sataris' Instagram page and you click on Octagon basketball, the first picture that pops up, Steph Curry. The picture right under it, Bam Adebayo, which kind of makes you wonder if they are under the same umbrella and San Francisco has a rainy day. Perhaps there could be some interesting communication lines that have happened through back channels, just an Olympic run, same agency. Let's just say things do go a little bit squirrely in Golden State, and he doesn't have the storybook ending. Not everybody does. What are we talking? Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan. Most of the greats don't stick it out their entire career. We saw that hellacious nightmare down here with D. Wade. So when I saw this, and I was like, the first thing came to my mind, I was like, man, Steph Curry got that Jimmy Butler sweetener deal. And I get it, but I'm upset that the Heat didn't take care of Jimmy on that. I think they should have, but damage is done on that one. And then my selfish ass went to whaling, and I was like, Bam's agent is posting Steph Curry getting his bag. Very interesting. Very interesting. Not ready to see you yet, old friend. But I'm taking notes. Now, look, I get everybody who's probably yelling at me. I'll get back to the Jimmy thing here in a second, then I'll wrap it up. But look, there is one notable thing that was the difference between Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler last year, even at age 35, which is what Jimmy Butler's going into his year 35 season. Steph Curry played 74 games. Jimmy Butler has not played that many games since he was 27 years old in the regular season. So, that's definitely notable. But to be fair, Steph Curry did have a lot of durability, has had some durability issues over the last handful of years. Certainly since Steph Curry left, he had a year where he basically missed all of the year. Then he was in the low 60s, which is about, probably the peak number you get from a Jimmy Butler season. And then, the 63, 64 range, 56 after that. But he's had his own durability stuff too. Again, I get it. His accolades, as far as championships, they dwarf Jimmy's. 4-0. I mean, it's a big time gulf there. But if you're talking about just faces of the franchise currently, about games played, Jimmy's got if Jimmy was coming off a 74 games played season, maybe this isn't the extension isn't the issue we're talking about, but Steph did. But before that, there were some squirrely years. So, I mean, look, I do think that this is it is a dead issue, it seems like, at this point for right now. We're moving on to the next phase of these negotiations. So I don't want to keep harping on that I thought the Heat should have done right by Jimmy and taken care of him. But it was tough not to think about that today when the Steph thing came along. But again, maybe we'll think about it in another fashion soon, old friend.